Hi, I'm Emily, and I just turned 29. A while back, I made the mistake of marrying a man who had a lot of problems, thinking that love could fix everything. I thought I could show him how important he was, but I learned that love can't make someone love themselves. I'll call my ex-husband Joseph. He was obsessed with making his parents happy. This wasn't just a normal desire. He desperately needed their approval, which affected everything he did. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Ellis, didn't care much about his life, which left him always craving their attention. It was hard to watch, and I soon realized I couldn't fill the emptiness they left in him. Things got worse because Joseph spent our savings on gifts and vacations for his parents. It felt like all our money went straight to them, and their lack of appreciation made me even more frustrated. This spending habit led to many arguments between us. I felt like I was competing with his parents for his attention, which was exhausting for our marriage. Despite our problems, I still cared about Joseph. I hoped he could break free from his parents' expectations and find happiness on his own, but I saw that my love couldn't help him do that. One day, Joseph came to me looking serious. He said he had something important to tell me, and I prepared for bad news. "Emily, I need to talk to you about my parents," he said. "What's going on?" I asked, ready for the worst. "They're retiring soon, and I want to surprise them with a fancy vacation. It's going to cost a lot," he said, looking excited yet nervous. "That sounds nice, but I really don't want to use our savings again," I replied, hoping to avoid another fight. "I don't have enough money saved up. I was hoping we could use some of our savings," Joseph said, looking hopeful. "Maybe we should think about it more if it costs too much," I suggested gently, trying to bring him back to reality, but he got upset. "You just don't understand, Emily. I love my parents and want to do something special for them. Love isn't about counting every penny, it's about grand gestures," he argued passionately. "But love also means being there for each other and making sacrifices together, not risking our financial stability. We need to think about our future too," I replied. Joseph was determined. "I have to do this for them. I thought you would understand. They're everything to me. And you're everything to me. But we have to be practical. We can't just spend all our savings on one trip." I tried to find a compromise, but he accused me of being selfish and not understanding his gesture. "It's not selfish. It's sensible and about planning for our future," I explained, wondering how much he wanted to spend. When he told me he needed all our savings, my heart sank. "All our savings, Joseph? That's reckless," I said, shocked by his request. "You're being heartless," he shot back, thinking I couldn't understand his desire to make his parents happy. "No, Joseph, I'm being realistic. We can't afford to spend $85,000 on a whim," I said, my patience wearing thin. His casual mention of getting the money back later added to my frustration. "Really, Joseph? That's not how this works," I replied, disbelief clear in my voice. We were at a standstill. Our views on love, responsibility, and money were completely different. The argument escalated, and things were thrown and broken in our anger. In the middle of the chaos, Joseph said if I couldn't support him, he wanted a divorce. He probably expected me to panic, but I didn't. I took a deep breath and said, "Okay, Joseph, if that's what you want." He was shocked. He expected tears and pleading, but instead, I stood firm. I was done indulging his fantasies. If he wanted to waste his future chasing unrealistic dreams, he could do it without me. I didn't hold back. I told him everything. I made it clear that his need for his parents' approval was pointless, like trying to stay dry in a storm with just an umbrella. He tried to argue, but I stopped him with a wave of my hand. I declared I was done fighting for a love held back by unrealistic expectations. "Go ahead, spend your money trying to win over people who barely notice you," I told him, firm in my decision to end the cycle of disappointments. It hit him hard. He finally saw how bad things had gotten. Our marriage had turned into a battlefield, and it was time for us to find peace separately. A month has passed since the divorce, and I can honestly say I feel incredibly free. I no longer have to deal with endless arguments about money or seeking approval that was never ours to gain. Each day feels a little brighter. True, Joseph has tried to sneak back into my life, pretending to care and asking how I'm doing, but I see through his act. I won't fall for his tricks again. As the saying goes, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I firmly turned away from his attempts to rekindle anything. I had realized I'd invested too much in trying to fix someone who didn't want to change. Now it was time to focus on my own happiness. Rebuilding my life hasn't been easy. Dividing our assets and adjusting to a new financial situation took patience. I was used to living a certain way, but I worked hard to rebuild my life and discovered strengths I didn't know I had. I reconnected with old friends, got back into hobbies I had neglected, and found new interests. The world felt big and full of possibilities. I was excited about this fresh start. Sure, there were moments of doubt and loneliness, and getting used to a new budget was hard. The pain from my failed marriage won't heal overnight, but each day brings comfort because I'm no longer sacrificing my happiness for someone else's insecurities. I realized how much I could accomplish once I was free from that burden. So here I am, a month later, still adjusting but doing well. Joseph's constant messages took a new turn. He claimed he was in danger and insisted on meeting. Tired of his relentless attempts to contact me, I decided it was time to confront him. In the middle of his messages, I called him. Joseph, we've been through this. We're divorced. It's time for us to move on, I said firmly. Emily, please. I just need a moment to explain. I'm in serious trouble, and you're the only one I can turn to for help, he pleaded. Maybe it was the long time since I last heard from him, or maybe he really sounded scared, but I reluctantly agreed to meet him. Fine, but we're not meeting at my house. Let's go to that cafe we used to like. No tricks, I said. Understood. Thank you, Emily. I promise I just need someone to listen. You're the only one who understands me, he said, sounding relieved. I know what you're thinking, Emily. Why would you agree to meet Joseph after everything? Trust me, I questioned myself too, but sometimes, curiosity and a little concern can make us give in, no matter how strong we feel. I couldn't ignore his request. Even though we were divorced, I still cared a bit. So there we sat across from each other in the cozy cafe, smelling the comforting coffee. But even the nice aroma couldn't ease the tension between us. Watching Joseph, with his anxious face and sad eyes, almost made me laugh. This time, however, I wasn't swayed. I stayed calm and in control, ready to listen but not letting him pull at my heartstrings. Okay, Joseph, you have my attention. What's this danger you're in? Just so you know, I'm not here to save you. I'm done cleaning up your messes, I said firmly but kindly. Joseph sighed deeply, looking both regretful and desperate, which almost made me feel sorry for him, but I stood my ground against any emotional tricks. I know I've made mistakes, but this is different. I've gotten involved with some really bad people. I owe them a lot of money, and they're not patient, he confessed. I raised an eyebrow, not believing his story. Really, Joseph? Dangerous people? Is this another one of your wild tales? I couldn't hide my disbelief. His expression changed to hurt and frustration, clearly hoping for more sympathy. No, Emily, this is real. I'm in trouble, and you're my last hope, he insisted, sounding desperate. So let me guess, after our divorce, you got into debt? Was it that trip you wanted for your parents? I couldn't keep my voice down, and people in the cafe started to look at us. I shot them an apologetic glance. Yeah, I got caught up in something stupid, but now I'm in a mess I can't handle alone, Joseph admitted, pleading with his eyes. I was so frustrated. How could he come back with yet another crisis? But underneath my anger, a little part of me still cared about him. How much do you owe? I asked, trying to stay calm. $145,000, Joseph replied quietly. $145,000? Are you crazy? I exclaimed. People turned to look at us, but this time I didn't apologize. If they were in my shoes, they'd react the same way. Emily, please, I have nowhere else to turn. I know I messed up, but you were the one person who believed in me, he pleaded, his eyes shining with sincerity. They pull at my heartstrings. Joseph, it's way too late for that. I thought you needed $112,000, not $145,000. You've completely lost it, I replied, a mix of disbelief and anger in my voice. Joseph started to cry, ignoring the stares from others. This isn't the place for a scene, I said. What will happen if you don't pay them back? They're threatening to hurt me. Emily, I'm not joking. This is really serious, he said between sobs. His words weighed heavy, making me feel torn between caring for him and wanting to protect myself. Seeing how serious this was for him, I softened my tone. Okay, Joseph, tell me everything from the start, I said gently. He explained how he wanted to pay for an expensive trip for his parents, borrowed money from a friend who let him down, and ended up with a lot of debt. As he talked, I felt a mix of frustration and a little amusement at his poor choices. So you borrowed money from risky people to impress your parents who didn't even notice? Is that what happened? I asked. Joseph looked down, tears rolling down his cheeks as he admitted, yes, since they went on that trip, it feels like I don't matter to them. I felt a bit sorry for him, realizing he had learned a tough lesson. You've really gotten into a tough spot, I said, but you created this mess yourself. I warned you it wasn't a good idea, and now you're struggling. You tried so hard to make your parents happy, but all you got was silence. This is a hard lesson, but it's one you needed to learn. We sat in silence, feeling the weight of our past. I knew it was time to let go. No more second chances. Joseph had to face his choices alone, and I needed to find my own happiness. I hope you find a way out of this, Joseph, I said firmly. You're not going to help? He asked, surprised. No, I'm not, I replied. Why not? He pressed. Because I don't have the money to help you, and even if I did, I can't take on a huge loan for years. I can't afford to be as reckless as you've been, I explained. Come on, Emily, please, I'm begging you, he said desperately. Expecting me to fix this isn't realistic, I said, losing my patience. Yeah, I did expect that. You're my ex-wife, not my enemy, he replied, still hopeful. But our lives were going in different directions. I wanted to focus on my own peace and happiness. And that's the problem, Joseph. You expect me to clean up your mess, but I can't keep doing that. I don't owe you anything, especially after how our money was wasted on your ungrateful parents. But I love them, he said. But I love myself too, and that means taking care of my well-being, I replied. Joseph looked down, realizing he wasn't going to get help from me. If you can't help, here's my advice, leave. Move somewhere they can't find you. If not, I don't know what else to tell you. He sat there, frustrated by my refusal to help. It's time for us to go our separate ways, Joseph. I can't keep getting dragged back into your problems. We both need to find our own peace, I said, hoping he would understand. If you really cared about me, you'd help, he said, anger creeping into his voice. Goodbye, Joseph. I'm changing my number, I said firmly as I stood to leave. As I walked away, he stayed seated, his face showing a mix of emotions. It was a tough but necessary step for my own happiness and self-respect.